Pennsylvania area. My father was in the timber business.
Where in Pennsylvania?
Around Kane, Pennsylvania, up in Elk County.
Uh-huh.
And we worked in the woods till I was about 6 years old. Had to start school, and then my father also had a farm in closer to Kane, and my grandfather, he had a farm right across the street from my father's farm, and he farmed both places. We had a dairy farm.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started school in grammar school in Kane, Pennsylvania, and then at nine years old, I think it was 1935 at the time, the price of lumber dropped down to nothing, so my father decided to go to see my godfather who lived in Barberton, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And we went over there to see him on a weekend, like it's 175 miles away, and we're ready to come back, and my godfather said to my father, says, you was schooled as a pattern maker, a wood pattern maker in Vienna. And he said, yes, he was schooled there. He says, well, the Babcock and Wilcock Company is a big boiler manufacturing company for steamships, basically. And they're looking for pattern makers.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, why don't we go over and see this guy, Tony, that's a superintendent. He's an Austrian guy of the pattern department. This was on a Sunday. We're ready to go back to Kane.
This is about 1933.
35.
35, okay.
Yeah, and so they went over to visit, and my dad started to work Monday morning.
Never went back to Pennsylvania?
Never went back to Pennsylvania, and me, my mother, and my sister, we took the train back to Kane, and we sold our farm to my mother's first cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And by December, we was living in Barberton, Ohio.
I see.
And I stayed in Barberton, Ohio till I was 17. I joined the Marine Corps, and I never went back to Barberton other than visits.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came to California.
After you were out of the Marines? Or
After I was out of the Marines in September of 1950. And let's see, what happened then? Oh, I went and got a job at Lockheed, and I became the caretaker at this Hawaiian nightclub that was next to the old Hollywood Athletic Club in Hollywood there at Sunset and Wilcox. And
what was the name of the nightclub?
Whistling's Hawaii.
Whistling's Hawaii, okay.
Yeah. And I became friends with more or less a lot of the Hollywood elite because of the Hollywood Athletic Club, and I was playing volleyball and getting a little social activities with the different customers there. And then I was working at Lockheed full time and taking care of the nightclub full time for about 8 years. And in 1958, the owner of the Hollywood nightclub, the Hawaiian nightclub, decided he wanted to get out, and he wanted to go work at another nightclub, which was the prestigious nightclub down in Palos Verdes. So,
what was that one?
I think that was, I forgot, I think it was the Islander.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I said, the guys that bought the nightclub asked me if I'd stay on as the caretaker, and I said, yeah, I'd do that. So I stayed with, that was 1958.
Yes.
And so then that club, they changed the name to the Sundown on Sunset Strip. That was the name of the nightclub, and it was kind of three wise guys type of guys that bought the nightclub over. They, see, at that time I was working a full-time job. The secretary job I had for the nightclub that was next door to the Hollywood Athletic Club sold out in '58, and the new owners asked me to stay on as a caretaker. The new owners owned the Asbury Room in the Asbury Hotel on Wilshire Boulevard in MacArthur Park, which I assumed it was a wise guy and the fast line of clientele hung around there. And they changed the name to the Sundown on Sunset, and it became a wise guy sort of a hangout. The clients were gamblers, hustlers, fast crowd type of people. Some were well known: Mickey Cohen, Jack Enforcer O'Hara, the Seeker Brothers, part of the Dragna Brothers gang, Liz Renee, Jimmy Fratiano, Chick Hill, that's Virginia Hill's kid brother, were the type of people that were hanging out there. And there was
a lively bunch.
Yeah, then there was another Hollywood crowd came in. It was High Hunter. He was an arms dealer, and Finn Twins were surplus aircraft dealers, and Jack Ruby, the famous Ruby, was coming in here because his brother and sister lived a quarter of a block away.
Really? I didn't know he had a brother.
Yeah, and there was Local Al, a smuggler, and if the club wasn't too busy, Jack Ruby and his brother would come into the club, and I would start pre-cleaning the club for the next day, opening and set everything up for the next day. The opening would be around 2 o'clock in the morning. At times the casino, at time to close, the casino and bar customer said, there was a bar customer there who said he was from Cleveland. I mentioned I was from Barberton, a small town just south of Cleveland. He asked me if I knew a guy by the name of Griffith. I says, yeah, I knew Griffith. He was a bookie and a numbers dealer and had a gambling club operation. Asked me if I knew of a restaurant called the Portage Grill. I said, I did. My mother ran it. And I knew Mary. I said, yes, that she ran the Portage Grill and that Mary was my mother. After that, we kind of became friends. Talked about Cleveland area, the Rams, the Indians, the Whistle Down horse racetrack, Akron. Sam Shepard at the time was in vogue, and there's a place around the Great Lakes here called Geneva on the Lake and such. I didn't know who Jimmy really was. I quit Lockheed at that time and the Sundown and got into a jazz club, nightclubs and theater business on La Cienega restaurant. That was 1958, 60 to 1963 to 1964. One day Jimmy walked and asked what was I doing, and I told him I quit Lockheed and the Sundown and bought into the business.
This is the place on La Cienega.
La Cienega.
Do you remember the address?
It was called the Excusez-moi. No, I don't write offhand, no.
But this was between
Sunset and Melrose. It was across the street from the Encore restaurant.
Okay.
And the Hollywood Playhouse was part of the structure, right? When we was out in the business.
And what was Jimmy's last name, so we're clear?
Yeah.
Fratiano, Jimmy the Weasel Fratiano.
You didn't hear that, right?
No, I didn't know that. No.
It was just Jimmy.
Down a few doors, a guy by the name of Ray Luna opened up a club called the Losers, a wise guy hangout. It used to be the famous club called Johnny Wilson's Supper Club.
I actually have been there.
Huh?
I actually went there once.
Oh, and let's see. Ray Lula also owned a bar called Sherry's on Sunset in La Cienega, and another wise guy hanging out. And that's how I became friends with Jimmy Fratiano, and he made my nightclub kind of his own personal little hideaway,
Ah.
because only the real sophisticated jazz people came in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Did you have jazz performers playing there?
yeah, you had Andre Previn and Andre Previn, Cannonball Adderley, and big Christy Minstrels, Charlotte Laban from France, and people like that.
Did they do any recording when they were there?
Huh?
Did they record any of what they played?
No,
They didn't record any of it.
no, didn't record nothing. It was
Just live music.
it was kind of a unique club. People had to sit on the floor, and we had about 4-inch thick foam rubber, and we had little skoji tables, and we had muffled lights from the ceiling that would shine down on the table, and if you had a drink there, the drink would light up from the lights shining down.
Uh-huh.
And only couples could go in there, and I was the bartender, and the other people had to sit at the bar.
Ah.
And from the theater would come in and have drinks in our bar.
Mm-hmm.
And had trouble with my partner and him playing around on his wife divorcing and stuff like that, so they were getting violent towards each other, so I bought myself out and went into the construction business. But
Who was your partner?
Cy Warner,
Cy Warner.
yeah, and he went to Florida.
Okay.
And let's see, what happened then?
Well,
I made friends with Jimmy coming into the club, and he got drunk. He never drank very much, and he got drunk one time, and I took him home, took him home in his car, and caught a cab back to my club, and I really endowed him because I took care of him like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing a little bit more drinking. He was telling me things I guess he shouldn't have told me about the Cleveland mob, and Mo Dallets and all them guys, Purple Gang, and him being in prison and stuff like that, and that everything was really run out of that particular area as far as the gangsters, the mafia goes, the people that lived in that area.
Him and Rockefeller.
Huh?
Him and Rockefeller from Cleveland.
Well, I guess they're both from Cleveland.
Yeah, what a coincidence.
And so then Kennedy got shot, and I had a friend of mine named Charlie Sample, and he stored all the gambling equipment for a guy by the name of Louis Straub. And Russian Louis Straub disappeared. That's what, long before I met Jimmy. I guess he disappeared about 52 or 53. But I asked him, well, whatever happened to Russian Louis Straub? And he told me that him, another guy by the name of Marshall Caffiano, I think that's how you say his last name, were given a job to assassinate him, because by Benny Binion, who owned a nightclub and owned a gambling joint in Las Vegas. Benny Binion, Russian Louis Straub was blackmailing Benny Binion because they both served time in Texas, felony time. I think it was over a tax matter or something like that. But if you had a felony, you couldn't own a club in Las Vegas.
I see.
It was kind of a rule, I guess, or something they had then. But anyway, he set it up for him to assassinate Russian Louis. And Russian Louis was a gambler, a deluxe gambler, and had stored all his gambling equipment and everything in Charlie Sample's place. And Charlie Sample used to make gambling little gambling mechanisms for him, and so when Russian Louis disappeared, all the roulette tables and stuff that Russian Louis had was stayed at Charlie Samples for a long time. And so I asked him, well, whatever happened to Russian Louis' job? He says, well, me and Marshal Cafigliano got a contract to assassinate him, and we did. We garroted him in Cabazon.
Oh.
Down on the way to Palm Springs on a ruse that they were going to fleece a guy by the name of Ray Ryan, who owned the El Taquas Hotel, and he was a gin player, and Russian Louis was one of the best gin players in the world because he had the equipment to play gin with.
Ah.
And so that's when I knew that Jimmy the Weasel was a real guy, when he told me the story.
Because you had known Russian Louis.
I didn't know Russian Louis, but I knew of Russian Louis, and I knew all about him through Charlie Sample, because eventually I went into business with Charlie Sample in the coin manufacturing business.
But Charlie Sample knew Russian Louis pretty well to have his equipment.
Best of friends.
Uh-huh.
And another good friend of Charlie's was what was his name? Well, I'll have to get back, because I'll remember it when I get back. And so there was a guy over there called Jack the Enforcer O'Hara, and he was in partners with this guy that was a friend of Charlie, that Charlie used to make gambling equipment for. That's where my mind kind of peters out. I'll remember it in a few seconds, but I can't remember.
It'll come to you in a bit.
Huh?
It will come to you in a bit.
Did Charlie, when you say made equipment, did they have stuff rigged? Some of the equipment
Oh
made
yeah,
rigged for?
Charlie would make all this stuff, and I learned the machinist trade pretty good, and I'd make some of the stuff. I used to make some stuff for a lady called Doyle Odell. She sold magician equipment, and when I was living on Sunset Boulevard, she had a shop next door that sold to professional magicians only.
Ah.
And so that's how I got involved with this gambling stuff and stuff like that.
Just from people who came into your club. So now over what time period did you have this club?
I had, well, I told you earlier, I think from 1958 to 1964.
So now,
End of 58 till 64.
so
After Kennedy got killed.
to the end of '64.
Yeah. Yeah, and probably a little bit into 65.
So when would you have had occasion to talk with Jimmy Fratiano after the Kennedy assassination?
Well, he'd come into the club
When?
in 63 and 64.
Uh-huh.
And then he kind of stopped coming into the club, and every now and then I'd run into him here and there in Hollywood. And he was telling me all about his truck. He was in a trucking business. He told me all about the bad news he had in the trucking business, and his deals with the cops and stuff like that.
Sorry, Johnny's dog is causing complete chaos here.
Causing
That's
havoc
good.
in the
That noise
background.
is not good. Yeah.
So anyway, he come up with the same story that he told 60 Minutes or 20 Minutes, that famous radio program they had on TV. He told me the same story. He told them that he shot John F. Kennedy, and he was in the manhole where the water goes down there at Storm Drain. He was in the Storm Drain.
Tell us how this came about. What happened on that occasion when he told you?
Just a matter of conversation. He came up with it, and I was talking about Russian Louis Straub.
This
More or less.
about when would this be?
Probably 64 sometimes.
Well, it couldn't have been 63 because Kennedy was killed in
I said 64.
64.
Yeah,
But
64, maybe middle of the year. You know, I just don't quite remember. I just know.
So when did you leave the club?
I left the club right January '65 or something. And went to work for Eartha Kitt.
Ah, okay.
And I got out of the nightclub because my partner and his wife were kind of going on the violent side of things.
So you sold your interest to your partner?
I told her, I told her all I want is the money I put in. I put in what $15,000,
Yeah.
and she had so much money. She just wrote me a check, and I told her I'd be out before 2 in the morning, and I was out by 8 o'clock that night. It happened around 6 that night. But
Oh.
she was addressing me that I was bringing all the hoochie girls down for her husband. She had 4 kids, and she didn't appreciate it.
Oh.
So basically,
Should I ask the hard question?
huh?
Should I ask the hard question?
No.
Oh, I.
So he told me what happened with the Kennedys and what happened with Russian Louis Straub. And
Was he sober at the time he told you this?
At that time, not quite sober, but he wasn't drunk.
This was in the club?
No, I think it was out of the club. I think we was up the street at on the corner of La Cienega and Santa Monica Boulevard.
Okay.
It was a fast food restaurant at that time. I forgot the name of it.
Okay. But you were giving him a ride or something, or?
No, I happened to run into him up there.
Okay. In other words, you were on foot.
No, I drove into the restaurant.
Oh, you drove.
He was there.
Uh-huh. We have a new star.
So that's
about what happened there.
what happened. But then,
Did he tell you in any great detail?
but then
How he?
I found out things later on that his boss was Johnny Rosselli. Johnny Rosselli's boss was Sam Giancano.
Right.
And they did something wrong. All 3 of them did something wrong where they had a hit put on them. They killed Johnny Rosselli and they stuck him in a trash can and threw him in the ocean. And they killed Sam Giancano at his home. And Jimmy found out about it, so he got mad at him, and he turned him in and went into protective custody.
I see.
And he died in protective custody, and they made a couple movies, TV shows on 20 minutes or
60 minutes?
60 minutes or that. There's two programs on, and I saw the one. Come on.
Okay, now don't get in the midst of things here. Yes.
I'll call a cop on you.
Spontaneous performer here. You're a spontaneous performer. Camera hog.
So they had Jimmy with a lady's nylon hose over his face, and he had gone through plastic surgery, but now he was in protective custody, and they let him be on the radio show, on the TV show, which I don't understand, but they did. And the same story he told them, he told me previously, maybe 6-7 months before that. And he died in protective custody.
Did he tell you the particulars of how it was that he got to the location, how he did the deed?
No, he didn't. He told me he was with 2 other guys and he killed the other 2 guys.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't know who they were?
No, don't know who they were.
Didn't then tell no tales.
Yeah.
Did you mention anything about, like,
And-
Giancana was like a big, I mean, he was
He
big
was
in the mob,
one
wasn't
of the biggest.
he? Who would have hit him? I mean, was there any?
These people that hit Rosilli, I think it was Mo Dallas, that Las Vegas gang, because they went over and they took the Las Vegas, as I understand from Jimmy, they took that over for a while. And, you know, Jimmy was kind of a bragger. He'd keep telling you how he could give a woman 3 orgasms in one night and stuff like that there, and you know, what a good study was. But when guys start telling you that, they tell you a lot of other stories that aren't quite true. So, guys, just numerous of occasions he'd tell me different things, which I don't think he should have been telling me. But
Remember anything else?
oh, one night I come in and I'm cleaning the club, and I start picking up all the napkins off the floor so I could vacuum easier. And
Yeah.
this was after 2 o'clock, and they were having a meeting with High Hunter,
Yeah.
the arms dealer, the Finn twins, Local L, a Cuban smuggler, a guy named Lonnie. He was out of Oklahoma. I guess he was one of them roughneck type of guys. And Jimmy Fratiano and Jack Ruby.
Oh.
This was 1958 when I first started working for the Sundown people, and they were smuggling guns to Castro in the Oriente province.
Ah.
And I guess High Hunter was the big supplier of the guns
Okay.
for Castro.
Huh.
And then Mickey Cohen would come in every once in a while with Jack Ruby during the daytime, because they served lunch during the daytime. And they had a lot of
Cohen and Ruby were good pals?
I don't know if they were good fellas, but Jack Ruby's brother and sister lived on Hudson Avenue, which is a quarter of a block.
Yes, I drove past there this evening.
Yeah, it runs right into the old Hollywood Athletic Club. It would dead into it. It would go across Sunset, but they couldn't get across because the club was there.
So this club was a little bit east then of, that's about east of Highland, a little bit, right?
It's a little bit east.
No,
It's a little
Hudson-
bit west of Wilcox Avenue. The
Yeah.
Wilcox Avenue was.
Wilcox Avenue is to the east.
Yeah. And Hudson, part of it's, they've actually changed its name to something else.
Well, they have, there's,
Schrader, they call it Schrader now.
oh,
But it used to be Hudson, used to run all the way, I'm pretty sure it run from Sunset.
Hudson is a half a block. It's just a short distance.
yeah.
At west of Wilcox. Now Wilcox is west of Line and west of Coanga.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And the police station, Hollywood station, is on Wilcox, half a block down,
Okay.
off of Sunset.
Yeah, it's not there anymore, but it used to be.
No.
Back in the 50s.
One of
60s.
the guys that used to work down there all the time, because he was a Congressional Medal of Honor winner, raising the flag on Iwo Jima.
Oh.
Ira Hayes, the Indian guy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where did he work?
Huh?
Where did he work? Or,
With the police station, because washing cars, because they'd find him drunk and he'd wash the policemen's cars.
oh, I see.
Rather than put him in jail?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He lived in the Colonial Hotel, and he lived in on the Wilcox Hotel too for a while. Then he went back to I think he was a Paiute or something like that. He went back to the Paiute reservation and froze to death drunk in the middle of the road.
Oh, gee.
And
Yeah, they made
Tom Duggan used to come in there.
Oh, Tom Duggan.
Tom Duggan used to come in there, both in the Hawaiian place and the other place. Joe Pine
Yeah.
and
You ever talk to Tom Duggan?
Yeah,
Uh-huh,
talked to Joe Pine too.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Duggan was from Chicago, right?
Oh, you bet he
He was
was.
an old Chicago newsman.
Yeah, he was
He left Chicago for his health. And then he returned and it was fatal.
he got killed on Pacific Coast Highway.
Tom Duggan?
Yeah, but
No, Tom Duggan was thrown out of a window in Chicago.
I know he was thrown out of a window, in fact, a one-story window. And his
My
neck was broken.
My understanding was that he
I don't know if
he
it
went
was
out of a
in
window
Chicago.
and he went
We'll
back
see.
to Chicago.
It was only a one-story window, that was the weird thing about it, but I don't know
Really?
if it was in Chicago or not, but, yeah, he'd been talking about the mob a lot, and Max Factor, that whole Max Factor thing.
Oh, God. See, my
Did you ever
grandfather,
meet Roger Roger Toohey got out of prison and was on the Duggan show talking about how he got set up on that kidnapping charge with he kidnapped Max Factor's brother, supposedly.
well, then one of them other guys, there was
No,
three
the
news broadcasters that used to come in there all the time. Joe Pine, Tom Duggan.
George Putnam, was he around then?
He came in, but he just came in to eat, that's all.
uh-huh.
He-
You ever see Eddie Gevertz?
Eddie Caverts, yeah, I saw him
Yeah,
around.
remember Eddie Gevertz?
Yeah, he sold what, clothes,
Fur.
furs,
He was
yeah.
a furrier. And he was.
Yeah, he got in trouble. You know how he got in trouble?
No.
The mail slot on the door,
Yeah.
he'd take a long fishing pole with a hook and lift the fur out and pull it out to the slot and claim insurance on it.
He was Tom Duggan's sponsor, and he would
Yeah.
go on the show, and Tom Duggan would just mercilessly go after him, and he would just humiliate him, and you'd feel so sorry for Eddie Gevertz that you'd want to go and buy a fur immediately to help the poor guy out.
And he converts it.
Eddie Gevertz, yeah.
What was the name of that damn fur place? Tannen
Cannon?
something, I think.
I vaguely remember it. Yeah, and then that Roger Toohey, when he got out of prison, he was on the Duggan show, and then 2 weeks later he was dead. They murdered him
Well, you
for
see,
talking.
my grandfather's friend was Toohey's bodyguard who got shot up with him.
Oh boy.
And my grandfather was living in Florida, and the friend came to convalesce with him in Florida in about 1950, had to have been 1957.
Yeah.
1957 that happened. But Roger Toohey was set up because Jake the Barber was never kidnapped. Jake the Barber went in and told this phony story in order to get Roger Toohey set up.
Well, then
And the crooked judges in Illinois went along with the deal.
there was a guy, his name was Jack Whalen, but he went by the name of Jack O'Hara. And he was the enforcer. Now, the reason he got killed is he was in the garden of Ella, and Mickey Cohen and his two boys walked in there, and he was drunk, and he put their heads in the toilet and took the money and told the drinks was on Mickey Cohen.
Oh.
And then Mickey Cohen owned that Rondelli's restaurant, Italian restaurant out there on the valley on Ventura Boulevard. And he was in there with a guy that Jack O'Hara and this other guy, they sold him a horse booking deal, and they posted him.
Ooh.
And then he went to the cops. And both Jack O'Hara and Jack Woods is the other guy's name.
Yeah.
Jack Woods, I knew Jack Woods was real good, and he's a good friend of Charlie's. And they both got convicted, and they got 4 years. Jack Woods went and served his 4 years, but Mickey Cohen shot Jack O'Hara between the eyes in that restaurant.
Uh-huh.
And the guy took a rap for it. That was with Mickey Cohen, that the Italian guy, they bought that book from him, that he passed posted,
Oh,
and that's what happened. I got a brief there, I can show you, I got it somewhere, some guy wrote a story about it here just 2 or 3 months ago.
oh.
So that's,
So Mickey came into your club too, and did you ever get a chance to talk to him? What was he like?
the only guy that came into the club was Jimmy Fratiano.
No, the other wise guys didn't come in?
No, that wasn't the wise guy hangout.
Uh-huh.
Jimmy just happened to be walking down the street, only about three or four stores down.
Yeah.
And he happened to see me, asked me what I was doing in there, and I said, well, I bought into the business here.
Oh.
Oh, and in the
And
other club,
then he start coming in there, like his own little private place.
Uh-huh.
And
So I guess he liked you and felt
yeah,
comfortable.
he told me he was friends with Markovitz. Markovitz was the the head man here for the Knights of Malta,
Okay.
and he tried to get Markovitz to get Frank Sinatra into the Knights of Malta, and they wouldn't let him in because he was divorced.
Oh.
And Frank Sinatra's mother wanted Frank to be in the Knights of Malta in the worst way, but
Oh.
he couldn't get him in.
Huh.
And he'd come in with his daughter. She was a beautiful girl. This Knights of Malta guy.
Oh, Markovitz came in with his daughter?
Yeah, the Knights of Malta. I know 2 Markoviches. One is the Tesla guy, and the other guy was a Knights of Malta,
Uh-huh.
one of the officers in there, I guess.
Okay.
And that's really a prestigious thing for Catholics to be into.
Ah.
It's like what they call it, the Masonic guys. It's like being in the Masons, a 33-degree Mason or something.
Okay.
What is it?
well, when you were working at the other club and Mickey was coming in and all those wise guys were coming in, did you ever?
They just
What was
came.
What was he like? That's when he was at the top of his
He was
game,
just
right?
a little short guy, dressed to a T all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and they would just come in there to eat. But then they'd always go to another place called the Gaiety down there on Sunset Strip, which was a Jewish delicatessen.
Mm-hmm.
But he never spent the night in there or nothing like that. They had music and dancing and everything in that club too,
Mm-hmm.
and hookers and dope addicts. And Mambo Maxi had his Mambo Talent place running in there. They had a lot of good stuff. Mobs Maberly.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Mom's neighbor, yeah.
She was one of the acts that was coming in. They had some pretty good acts in there.
Uh-huh. That's in the Gaiety?
No, in the Sundown.
Oh, in the Sundown, okay.
Yeah. In the Gaiety, didn't have no acts in the Gaiety, just a Jewish delicatessen.
Uh-huh.
But Jack Woods was the guy I was trying to think of first. Jack Woods.
I had never heard that Jack Whalen was called Jack O'Hara. I'm
Oh,
familiar with
yeah.
the name Whalen.
His dad was Freddie O'Hara, and I heard he was a little bit on the gay side.
Mm.
And his hangout was down around Vermont and Hollywood Boulevard and Vermont and Sunset down around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Carol Chessman was arrested?
Yeah.
Do you remember where that occurred?
No, but in my mind, I thought it was just a little bit north of Hollywood Boulevard, up there near the Hollywood Bowl.
I had an idea that he was arrested somewhere by Hollywood and where Hollywood and Vermont and what's that intersection there? I think it's Hollywood and Sunset.
Virgil.
Hollywood and Sunset. I always had
Hollywood, Sunset, and Virgil. It might have been a lot. That was a lot of big wise guy hanging around. What you call it? Used to hang around out there. That pinstriping guy.
Oh,
Dutch, Von Dutch,
Von Deutsch, yeah.
yeah.
Von Deutsch and Charlie Sample Jr. were the best of friends.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah. And I got one of Von Deutsch's papers that he
Oh,
did the design on, and I got a little badge of his. He had a little cloisonné badge.
Yeah. Yeah, he's famous. He's famous now that he's dead.
Yeah, and then another good friend of Charlie Sample Jr.'s was Audie Murphy.
Oh, really? Huh.
They were really good buddies.
When was Charlie Sample Jr. killed?
I think 1980.
Oh, that late?
Yeah, he was, he wouldn't join the union.
Ah.
He was a fix all kind of sewing machine, any kind of sewing machine there was for the garment business. He'd fix it.
Uh-huh.
And this is a story I heard, and the Mexican guys are trying to get him to join the union, and he says, I'm not a garment worker, I'm a sewing machine. And they dropped a 5-gallon can of paint or something and tried to scare him, and it hit him on the head. And he was 120 days
Ooh.
in coma,
Oh, really?
and then he died.
Oh, boy. I didn't realize it was that late. I thought he died much younger.
No. Oh, his kids are already growing. They put on his tombstone, yuck, 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 yuck.
Really? Why was that?
That's what they used to say all the time.
Quite a character.
Charlie was evidently quite a character. You were telling me one time.
Oh yeah, he was a borderline citizen. That's what the
What's the
Thad Brown. You know Thad Brown. Who Thad Brown was? He was
the sheriff at one time?
assistant police chief too.
Oh, okay.
And there was a lady. There was a faggot by the name of Mother Goddamn that was involved in a big coin heist in Palm Springs.
Ah.
And she come over to Charlie's to have them $50 gold pieces, put a bezel around them, you know.
Oh, okay.
For a piece of jewelry. And the cops broke into this place one day
Yeah.
and ransacked it. And the barber next door told Charlie. Charlie goes, right now, Charlie was involved with the Rancho Vistadores and all them rides, you know.
Yeah.
And so he goes down to Thad Brown's office, goes storming right in there. Thad Brown, you son of a bitch. And he laid the lighter out. And he goes screaming out the door.
Uh-huh.
And Thad Brown says, what the hell's wrong with that goddamn Charlie? Is that the cops?
Uh-huh.
And they doped his dog. He had a dog, Tippy Sample, in there.
Oh.
That was on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Uh-huh. Is this when he had Joel Thorne's race car, too?
Oh, that I wasn't around when he had. That was in '47, and
But he had the car sometime.
oh yeah, he had the car. He had the car stored in that little garage here for a while.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Then he got killed, and everything got taken away.
Ah. Huh.
But a lot of them tools are them real expensive hand tools that Charlie had, and Joe Thorne given to Charlie.
Uh-huh.
And that decal they got. Joe Thorne and Howard Hughes were cousins.
Oh, I never heard that.
Yeah, and they went down and got that decal,
Uh-huh.
and they took it over to Charlie's sample shop, and then Charlie kind of rebuilt it. It was.
I remember seeing it. I always aspired to own it. Just for the audience's sake, a decal is a pantograph.
Yeah. So.
Which may not tell you anything either.
So Charlie for the El Tacos Hotel, where the golf course is at, and that Ray Ryan guy, Charlie used to make, and Jack Woods was a golfer down there, and he got him the job of making the letters to put on their lockers.
Oh.
Out of that two-colored phenolic stuff to be
Oh,
black
yeah.
on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Charlie used to make them all the time.
Tell about Charlie and Janis Joplin.
Charlie met Janis Joplin in a Jewish delicatessen
Yeah.
on what the hell's that? 3rd Street, on 3rd Street.
Would this be at Cantor's?
Cantor's, yeah, Cantor's.
Okay.
And she was there with George Tobias,
Oops,
and there was no place to sit,
that's it.
Oh, for yours. Oh, no, mine's still there.
Okay.
so she said, could I sit next to you guys? And they start talking about guitars.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie got her 18-string guitar, and you know, Charlie used to carry $10,000 in his pocket all the time.
I
Wow.
can picture that.
And so he bought her an 18-string guitar, and then Janice would go out, and she's only about 18, 19 years old. She was a short time in Hollywood. And she'd crawl through Charlie's window
Yeah.
in a little shack he had back where he'd sleep and sleep it off, and Charlie come home, she'd be in his bed.
Oh, golly.
And the same thing with that Linda Ronstadt.
Really?
He bought her, the goddamn guitar cost about $2,500 or something.
Woo!
Wow. What a character.
Charlie's picture's hanging down there at Felipe's.
Yeah,
Right when you walk in the back door, there's Charlie's picture. I
Yeah,
just took a
that-
picture of it a while back.
we went down that day, and
That was what, his 100th or 101st birthday or something?
No.
down Felipe's.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie's birthday, was it his 100th birthday? And he
It
was
wasn't.
in there and they took his picture there.
Charlie was the oldest patron that is still alive that came into Felipe's.
I just ran across the pictures of Charlie's 100th birthday party.
Was it down there at Felipe's?
No, it was
Oh.
it was over in a woodworking shop over on Blackwelder Street.
Oh, okay, because I know there's
So
a,
I don't have them pictures.
No, I'll have to print the stuff up for you. You're in the picture.
Yeah.
You're in some of the pictures.
yeah, but they blew up his picture, it's hanging, you were with me, right? Did you see that? It's at
I
Felipe's,
think you
right in the
filmed
back
it.
door.
The guy that took the picture was one of the Felipe kids,
Uh-huh.
but he was in his 50s.
Uh-huh.
Charlie's dad, he was worked for the Bureau of Weights and Measures,
Yeah.
and he would go to all these joints and have free dinners and free
Mhm.
all that free bullshit all the time.
Uh-huh.
And that's when Felipe's was right where the 101.
Yeah.
101 took Felipe's store, and then they moved it down.
Oh.
That's way back, that's gotta be in the
That's
teens
way
or
back.
something, or
Well, that's
20s, 1920s or,
No, not that far back, in about 46 or 47, after World War II.
was it?
Uh-huh. Well,
And the circus people used to come for trains down there.
uh-huh.
Yeah, and they still had maybe they still do today, have the circus people meet there on a certain afternoon, like was it Wednesday afternoon? or
Ringling
something?
Brothers.
Ringling Brothers, yeah.
I mean, all the circus people used to eat there one day a week, one afternoon a week, they
Yeah.
all get together. They might still do, maybe
Huh.
some old timers.
Oh, I'm telling you, I met a lot of people through Charlie. Jesus Christ, everybody
Oh, boy.
knew that some. I don't know why everybody knew him. That.
Well,
Like Jack Woods, I don't know how in the hell he run into Jack Woods. Jack Woods and Jimmy Woods.
well, maybe they came to him
Jimmy
for,
Woods and them guys.
for jewelry. Or
No, the
silver.
gambling equipment stuff.
Oh, the gambling stuff, uh-huh.
Back in the early days, and when you were working at that other club, you mentioned that Jack Ruby came in all the time. And is anything you remember about him? What kind of a guy was he? Like a big shot type guy, or was he low key at that time? Or do you think he owned his clubs in Dallas way
He
back
owned the
then?
Carousel Theater in Dallas, and he had Virginia Phillips working for him. You know who she's Candy Bar. She was married to a guy by the name of Jack Sahawkin.
Uh-huh.
Jack Sahawkin was the first guy to start that $50 a haircut and come to your house and give you a haircut.
Really?
And one of his proteges was that guy got killed in Tate LaBianca murders.
Jay Sebring?
Jay
Oh.
Sebring. J. Sebring and Charlie were, J. Sebring's shop was on Sunset, no, on Fairfax and Santa Monica Boulevard. They were pretty good friends.
Huh.
J. Sebring used to live with Jack Sahawkin and Candy Bar in the Lanai Apartments. That's where the fountain dead ended into La Cienega there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And,
Now it's a
and he
big
used to sleep
thing.
in the closet. They had a big closet to put clothes in, but it was almost as big as the bedroom.
Uh-huh. He slept in the closet?
Yeah, and then J. Sebring teamed up with a guy by the name of Don Satani.
Mm-hmm.
And Don Satani was one of them barbers too, and he had a shop across the street from the Excuse Moi down the club I had down there on La Cienega. And that's I met him and Charlie all at the same time. You know, I met them guys without knowing Charlie.
Uh-huh.
And
Where
then-
did you meet Charlie? I never did hear how you met Charlie.
I was going with a French girl, so I was telling her about Barney's Beanery. She said she liked the seat, so we went down to Barney's Beanery, and it was crowded, and she looked like Rosemary Clooney.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a guy sitting in there, kind of a real heavy-set guy. His dad was in a parachute making business during World War II. And he was in the army with Charlie, but he wasn't compatible to be in the army. They kicked him out, but him and Charlie became pretty good friends. So I sat down next to him. He said, sit down here, sit down with me. So we're talking, you know, what do you do and what do you this and that. And he says, I'm in the silk screen business. And I says, I worked when I was in the Marine Corps, I used to go to Philadelphia and work for a silk screen guy. And he was silk screening wallpaper.
Hmm.
And he said, well, come down to my shop. So we followed him down to his shop, and his shop was next door to Charlie's shop.
Oh.
So went over there was little Charlie, and he started, this is Charlie, this and that, and his dog was out there. I seen all that damn machinery Charlie had laying around out in the backyard.
Hmm.
And so that's how I got to talking to him.
Oh.
And then I was going to that Lockheed apprenticeship program, the tool and die, aircraft tool and die.
This was what, about 1958 or
No, 52,
52? Okay.
52, 53, right around there.
Yeah.
So I used to take some of Charlie's. Charlie would ask me to do some things, and I'd take it into Lockheed and do a G job
Oh,
on it
yeah.
and sneak it out.
Uh-huh. Well, they'd rather have you do that than get into mischief.
What the hell's that goddamn guy's name? His folks lived in Beverly Hills. They was in a parachute business, loaded with money, man, just loaded with money. See, I forgot that I used to know it just like that.
And you might mention Charlie, what he did. I mean, because nobody else will know that he was a silversmith and a,
What was he?
I mean, you might talk a little bit about Charlie and what he did.
Charlie was basically he was a womanizer. He was going with Nina Zoss. Nina Zoss, her husband, built the post office, and they had an open marriage. And she was kind of keeping Charlie with extra money, and Charlie was working with, what the hell, that famous cowboy jewelry manufacturer.
Ed Bolin.
Ed Bolin. Charlie worked for him. And then Charlie run into a guy by the name of Buck Bell. Buck Bell, brother was lieutenant governor of Nevada.
Oh.
And they had a business together. And the business was on a corner of Van Nuys Boulevard and Ventura Boulevard, right on the corner, that bookstore there that was there for years. And Charlie, this was just a little bit before World War II, when he got started, and Charlie was fucking this girl, and she was the draft board guy's wife, so he drafted Charlie into the fucking army
Oh,
on his 38th birthday.
oh,
His 38th
And-
birthday.
And Charlie took his son right in the army with him,
I'll be darned.
and they went to Camp Crowder, Missouri,
Uh-huh.
and they put Charlie on a general staff, making badges and stars and
Mhm.
shit for the goddamn.
But Charlie worked for Augustus Packmeyer earlier on.
That was when Charlie just got out of high school. His father, his stepfather, Hindermeister, knew August Packmeyer real good, and he paid August Packmeyer $2,000 to teach Charlie the gun business, and that's how
Oh.
Charlie.
Oh, I didn't know
That's
how.
how Charlie.
Uh-huh,
He was the only guy that ever worked with Packmeyer.
I see.
But then Charlie went and got a job with Bowman. I think he was with Bowman about 30-some years or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And
Yeah, Bolin made all those fancy silver buckles and
No, the
Yeah.
saddles, all the
and-
saddles that were in the Rose Parade, all the silver saddles in the Rose
Yeah.
Parade.
So
All.
Charlie must have worked on all that stuff.
yeah, he worked on all.
Yeah. Wow.
Him and not just Charlie, there's a bunch of guys. What you call it worked on them too.
Well, very late, Ahmad.
Ahmad, yeah.
I don't know who the other guys were. Never heard their names.
I heard their name, but I forgot them all.
Yeah, that was,
And then when he was working with Packmeyer, Walter Strand was working. Walter Strand was the gun stock maker.
uh-huh,
And Charlie got a diploma and everything, all written out from Johnny Packmeyer. That's August Packmeyer's son.
I see.
This guy got.
So he was a gunsmith, silversmith,
But Charlie belonged to them riders, the Rancho Vistadores. You ever hear of them?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Did you ever hear that? Them guys, what the hell? What's that club they talking about in San Francisco all the time? Where the Illuminatis and all them hang
the
out.
Bohemian Club?
Bohemian Club. Charlie was a trick rider. Him and Hank Grinnell, I think, they were trick riding. And they put a show on, and he was going to the Bohemian Club, putting the show on with Giordano meat packers out of Santa Barbara.
Oh, uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah, then he knew the guy owned Rexall drugstore real good.
Mm-hmm. Who was that?
Oh shit, real nasty son of a bitch. Shit. That's the trouble. I can't. I'll think of it down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll take a break anyway, because my tapes is after that, because I gotta change tapes.
So that's.
If you want to talk about some other things,
Well,
let me,
that got a lot of it.
if you want to talk about your Marine Corps days or something?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.